Good news, bad news in the week that was. Tom Brady captures his 7th Super Bowl championship as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers routed the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9. Yet the top story Monday morning was how Florida residents packed the stadium, packed the bars, and packed the dance floors to celebrate and enjoy victory while sporting naked faces, ensuring that COVID shaming remains more important than returning to normal and people legally enjoy a taste of normalcy and freedom. In other news, in emails dated June 2020 from senior staff members in Prime Minister Trudeau's office that were leaked this week, it is clear that our government intends to keep as much information about the virus and Canada's response to it from Canadians as possible. With one of the emails reading, a detailed announcement would mean that the government could be held accountable to show that funds were spent exactly as announced, reducing flexibility to move money across buckets if necessary. Emails that were leaked at a time when it is becoming clear that accountability is needed more than ever regarding government's response to COVID, as Canada is now ranked 41st in the world when it comes to handling COVID. It is 12 times worse than the US in terms of herd immunity and vaccination rate, and Canada has now experienced only half the drop of infections that the US has experienced since January 11th, 2021. Meanwhile, in Ontario, Ford has announced that the stay-at-home order will be extended beyond February 9th, except for 3 public health units in Eastern Ontario, which erased restrictions Wednesday, and that Ontario will begin reopening the economy next week in specific regions, returning Ontario to its original approach, which was to evaluate the need for lockdown restrictions on a region-by-region basis, with 25 other public health units to have the stay-at-home order lifted on February 16th. While hotspots, Toronto, Peel, and York regions won't see restrictions ease until February 22nd, 2021. Yet while this is great news, the more measured approach will still mean communities face more restrictions than before to the stay-at-home order's implementation, even as their regions are deemed safe enough to begin to open up, leading some to wonder, is this just a ploy to appease anti-lockdown proponents? Moving on, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has begun to compile a list of those unjustly affected by the new federal government travel restrictions, for the purpose of bringing a lawsuit against the federal government regarding its current procedure to unjustly detain Canadians without having committed a crime, unjustly make them pay for that detainment without just cause, and detaining them for 14 days regardless of their COVID-19 test results, thus eliminating the supposed just cause for their detainment. Meanwhile, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association pointed out that these new measures of fining Canadian travelers $2,000 to pay for their own detention hurts middle-class and lower-income Canadians much more punitively, once again demonstrating that lockdowns are luxuries of the rich elites and a death knell for the average Canadian. In other news, Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, when asked about when Canadians can expect for those vaccines to allow us to return to normal life, had this to say. Listen.
Because we do not know if the vaccines are good at reducing transmission of the virus or asymptomatic infection. It is actually really difficult to say what point that would be. But I do think that, we just have to keep week by week monitoring as vaccines roll out what that real-time impact is. And I will be looking towards the United Kingdom and Israel and other countries for some of those signs as well. And then our modelers are also hard at work right now trying to input these evolving parameters into a model together with the public health measures to see if they can give us some forecasting. But right now it's a matter of just watch this space.
Translation: take your experimental injection, sit down, shut up, and learn your Chinese. With this week's Chinese phrase of the week being
愚弄我曾经对你感到羞耻，如果你愚弄了我，我再也不会上当了，你会想
which translated means fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, I can't get fooled again, you would think. Moving on, race baiters who are looking to bring peace and harmony to Canada are now demanding that Canada banks release data regarding their customers' race, gender, income, and neighborhoods in order in order to grapple with microaggressions, unconscious bias, and discrimination in Canada's banking system. Once again, proving that a race baiter's top skill is their ability to create problems where there previously weren't any. Go team! But don't worry, Toronto Mayor John Tory is on the case, keeping racism alive and well by announcing last week that Toronto will fund the Black Scientist Task Force on Vaccine Equity to do everything possible to provide Black residents with the information they need to get around and get over vaccine hesitancy, ensuring that the signature pattern of reestablishing systemic racism in government programming by progressive woke politicians is kept alive. As the task force mandate is clearly based on the fundamental belief that Black people are so uneducated and so unintelligent that they need to be actively targeted by the government in order to be told what they should think and what they should do. Lastly, in the U.S., it has now been decided that after the tragedy of the Capitol Hill riots on January 6th, pillow fights will be the new way citizens settle political disputes, with progressive gun control activist David Hogg announcing this week that he would be starting a pillow company to compete with Trump supporters Mike Lindell's My Pillow Empire, with Hogg this week beginning to announce his team for the upcoming pillow fight, naming Brandon Wolf, an LGBTQ activist with no experience in the manufacturing or selling of pillows, to the new company, Good Pillows, Activist Advisory Board, proving once again that the woke who self-proclaim themselves to be good are just plain dumb. We just hope for everyone's sake that this pillow fight will live up to the epic pillow fights of communities Abed and Troy. And this has been Good News, Bad News in the week that was.